Desolate wasteland. Perfect for light-hearted hunts. But do not let your guard down. Don't pull any stunts. For the mud hides secrets, and none of them are good. Where once was sand and water, a monster is now stood.
What's good, everyone? It's your boy Dak908, aka the Dig Dug himself, and today, guys, we're going to be looking at the Barroth. Yes, so sir, the Barroth. One of my favorite monsters of all time because I love brute weapons more than anything else. Barroth made his introduction in Monster Hunter Tri, much as basically every monster I love like forever. It's not because I started in Tri, I started an actual Monster Hunter and then moved to Freedom, but Tri has a much specialer place in my heart than anything else. Nevertheless, so here we go. Monster Hunter Rise Barroth. What is he? What is he about? What are the things that he does? Does he does things? Let's things eats. I can't talk today because I don't know, I'm just silly. Huh. What an intro. So Barroth is a very interesting monster. Again, a brute wyvern, so he gets most of his things done in the mud. Now, one thing you should know when you go to fight the guy is that he has a massive forehead. And that massive forehead allows him to do a couple of things. Notable thing number one, block attacks from the front. A lot of times he likes to hang his head a little low, so attacking from the direct front will cause you to bounce, so you don't usually want to attack from the direct front. This is one of those cases where in which if you're using something like a hammer or a hunting horn or a blunt weapon, if you will, like an impact thing, it is now your time to shine. No one who's actually fighting him should be attacking in the front except you guys, because you guys have that delicious heavy big fat man slam that'll knock a monster out. And notably, you need to do a lot of smacking the head to break his crown. Yes, that big thing on top of his head falls off and you can get to carve it. Thing is, it's gonna take a bit of smacking to get done because it doesn't come off for free. So it's something to truly and earnestly note. Now let's talk about the attacks, because he has not a whole lot, but everything hurts, like a lot. He was one of the first gatekeepers in the 3rd generation. Actually, the first gatekeeper in the 3rd generation. So what makes him so notable is the fact that he has that ramming attack. That ramming attack is actually something to behold. It's a doozy. It hits really hard. You do not want to get hit by it. But however, they did change it, at least in the 5th generation, where you hear like a kind of whistle that goes off whenever he's about to do it. So if you're not looking at him directly and hear that whistle, you better make sure you're not in his line of sight, because he's gonna run you straight over and it's gonna hurt a lot. Now, outside of that, he does sling the mud around. He is the mud slinging slasher, if you will. So to get rid of all this mud, you actually have to, well, not to get rid of it. Let's talk about getting rid of it. You can get rid of the mud. So what you do is you just literally attack his body. The more you attack his body, the more mud will actually fall off to the point where he can't shake the mud onto you. That's a huge thing, because if you're actually stuck in the mud, you have limited mobility, and he will probably combo you into a fat hit, so you don't want to take those. So if anything, take note of how much mud is actually on his body, because he will shake it off, and that'll like throw the mud puddles all around you. But if he has no mud on his body, he's going to not be able to do that. Granted, just because there's no mud on his body don't mean he can't put it back on. So what he'll do is he'll go find some more mud to like roll around in and get more mud and throw it back on his body. Honestly, to be very fair with you guys, that is basically Barroth in a nutshell. He doesn't have a whole suite of ridiculous things that he does. He just does very simple things, and he does it very hard, and he does it quite well. He has a lot of HP. He was one of the first ones to have like almost a completely impenetrable part of his body, be it his freaking head, because he can't attack that way. So you're stuck trying to pick at his ankles and everything and hope for the best. And he hits really hard. He throws mud, limiting your mobility and like really shoring up a lot of space around you. So it can be a little difficult when it comes to fighting my guy, but don't fret, guys. The funny thing about him is that he is a gatekeeper, so there's more things to talk about. I know, like this is weird. So he's one of the first monsters to actually fight with dual. Quote me on this. I'm not really gonna like call it a real thing, but he has dual weaknesses. So okay. Those in the chat, hit me if I'm wrong. If he has the mud on his body, you want to hit him with water. elements. If you do that, it does more damage for whatever reason. Both the mud is off of his body, you want to hit him with fire. Think of it like this: he's muddy, you wash him off, and he's all dried out. When he has no mud on his body, you dry him out with the fire, that kind of thing. It's a weird dynamic, but it's a really cool one nonetheless. So just think about that when you go to fighting him, because it's actually something to really note. Because if you go in there with just straight, let's say if you go in there with just straight fire, you're probably not gonna do a whole lot of damage because he likes to keep himself nice and muddy. But the thing is, you want to go in here with, in my opinion, if you're soloing, go in here with like water, or you can go in here with just raw and call it a day. Ice is another good one to have as well, but again, he has to be under certain circumstances for the true elements to really work their jelly. So the best one in my opinion is water, because he'll probably be more muddy more often than not. Nevertheless, that's the Barroth. So let's go look at his gear, because he got some pretty questionable gear. I'm not gonna hold you on that. So Barroth armor is actually nice and smacky. Honestly, when you look at it, it's something that just fits me, a Lancer, because that's guard there, and that's totally true. But cool enough, I knew his armor was going to look similar to this because it looked like this for a very, very long time. These skills, I should add. But he gives attack boost 2, defense boost 1, affinity sliding 1, and guard 2. Now, we went over what attack and defense boost was. It's just what it sounds. You get a boost to attack, you get a boost to defense, and affinity sliding, we talked about that a couple days ago, or day before yesterday, where essentially as you slide, you gain a little whoosh sound effect, and then the affinity takes place, and then so on and so forth. However, guard is something we're not going to talk a whole lot about. It's not a whole lot to talk about, but it's a particularly new skill for the video series thus far. So what guard does is, the more guard you have, the less knockback you get when you block attacks. The stronger the monsters are that we're going to start going up against, they're going to start having attacks that cause a lot more knockback. When we have guard, it lessens that particular bit of knockback. However, something to seriously note for those of us out there that are Lancers and Gun Lancers who rely on guard, they nerfed the skill guard, so that way when you get to guard 5, yes, you get the greatly decreased impact, but you also only get the stamina depletion reduction by 30%, whereas in World it was 50%. Now, also something else to note is, the damage you take from blocking an attack that we lovingly call chip damage remains 100% unchanged, no matter how many points in guard you have. This is the second nerf. The only time you get reductions in the amount of chip damage you get is when you have the ability called guard up. That's the ability we haven't actually seen yet, but what guard up does is usually it makes it to where the unblockable attacks are now blockable. But now in this game, it's the same thing, and also reduces how much damage you take from chip damage. It's a nerf, I don't like it, but here we are today. That's Barroth armor. His weapons, I'm not gonna hold you, weapons aren't that great. They have really high attack, negative affinity, negative 20% affinity. So if you're a fast hitting person, do not, I repeat, do not pick up Barroth weapons. Don't pick up Barroth dual blades, don't pick up Barroth sword and shield, don't do none of that. You can make one, because it'll probably turn into something else later, but don't make one and run it, because the damage increase you get from the increased attack is going to drop off a cliff when you look at how much affinity you're losing because you're hitting so often. If you're great sword, hammer, lance, maybe great sword, hammer, gun lance, sure, run it. Slower hitting weapons, we're not going to feel the effects as drastically because we're not hitting as often. So it's more applicable for us. But if you're the fast hitting guys, don't even, because it's not worth it. So let's wrap it up in a fat bow. Okay, so Barroth works as such. If you want to do the serious damage to my mens, you honestly have to hit him in the little bit of little hands he has, those tiny strong hands, if you will. Do it with the fire and then double down with the water, that kind of thing. Nevertheless, actually, don't quote me on that. They may have changed this as well, and I'm thinking about it out loud. They may have changed how this actually works, but I do remember that his forelegs are his weakest parts. He's usually weak to fire and water. Nevertheless, just bring fire. We just picked it up. We bring water. We just picked it up. Matters not. Smack him around a little bit. Do this on the forearms so that way you do the most damage. And watch out for a lot of his charging attacks. That's the one thing about him. He is a monster who charges a lot. So for the most part, the best way to actually combat my guy is to just move out of the way. Just be notable as to like what he actually has, because a lot of things that he can do can and more likely will leave you in a bad spot because of the damage ramp that he actually has is pretty high. So don't take hits for free, but watch what he does and try not to get hit yourself, and then try to capitalize on him being really slow when it comes to the tail on his attacks, because he has to charge them up. He is a charging type monster, if you will. So honestly, with all that being said, remember that fast hitting weapons is probably going to be your friend. The impact weapons are going to be nicest to have as well, because they're the only ones who could probably really knock off the crown on his head, so that way you can use it to carve for scalp, which is a seriously hard item to come by. We need to actually kill my man, because it's the hardest thing to get, because it comes from the part of his body that's really hard to come off, because it just didn't want to come off because of the scalp and that kind of thing. Nevertheless, Barroth is a fantastic monster. I recommend making this armor if you're a lancer or a gun lancer, because you can mix it with some Renoplos and get a full set of artillery and guards. That way you can have like a low end mix set that's actually really useful for gun lance and or lance. As far as his weapons go, I would usually give them a miss because they have really low affinity. They do have high attack. The sharpness isn't even good either. I don't even think they're at this rate you won't even get green sharpness, so take that into account as well. You don't get green sharpness, you have negative affinity, you have slightly higher than normal attack. So what does it mean to you, essentially? What does it mean to you, if anything at all? Because if it doesn't, I recommend just skipping them all together. But with that said, everyone, it's been your boy Dak908, aka the Dig Dug. So that's pretty much all I can say about the Barroth. Just be careful when you fight him. He isn't foreverly difficult. You should come out okay. It may take you a try or two. It may take you a little while. He is a brute weapon. Brute weapons are usually healthy. But that's all the tip to have. Of course, before we go, the Discord server. If you want to join in on the Discord server, we're there every single day, hunting all the time. We're in the voice channels, just having a grand old time, talking a whole lot of smack, having a good old time, helping people out, getting your hunter rank up and so on. If that sounds like a good time to you, the Discord link is in the description. But if that's not how you get down, we always have the Twitter. If you want to follow me on Twitter, stay up to date on all the videos and the streams and everything else that's going on around here, as well as some personal things, you know, just me just talking to you guys about stuff, you know, just being cool and whatnot. Hit me on Twitter. That's where I get down as well. But with that being said, everyone, it's been your boy Dak908, the Dig Dug himself, and as always, may the desire sensor forever be in your favor. We got like 3 or 4 more videos today. Take care.